Hey bros, Cano here, Bulls on Wall Street. Small bit of heat in the markets today. You know, the indexes didn't really show it as we just finished about 0.22 and still in this big consolidation zone that we've been talking about really for the last, week or two. We're still in it, but there were pockets of heat today that were incredible. It took me by a little bit by surprise, but the watch list from last night was firing. Dell, so many damn names were just boom right out of the gate. And who knew Dell's moving like a small cap these days? Like, what is this, 1999? But that's where we are. So indexes kind of flat, QQQ's grind zone, right? SPY still the grind zone. IWM slightly better, but inside the grind zone, right? It's a sausage party. You know what the sausage party's like, right? 1999, you're at a party with your buddies. Only dudes there, right? You look across the room, there might be one chick, and there's 18 dudes. That's what the market's been like of recent. And today, things were a little bit different. The indexes were flat, but we had heat. A lot of this came from, Intel put some news out that their foundry was losing money. And I actually had read this, and my assumption was this was bad for the semiconductor industry. It is a good thing I am just a chart trader and trade price action, because I looked at this in the morning, I'm like, oh man, these chips are F word, but they ended up rocking out right out of the gate. This thing, it's every time I'm like slightly surprised by it, but I shouldn't be. I've been trading now full time since 2008. I've been watching this MU stock for 2 decades. It never moves like this. I mean, even today, it dipped down, red to green, and then boom, off to the races. Look at the options pricing on this thing, It just gets incredible. This is like a ton of volume accumulation. So when I saw this go red to green, then I knew that the semiconductor were probably going to catch on fire. And then you saw that with, right, AMD went red to green and so on and so forth. So awesome pockets of strength. Dell Computers, same thing. Small open, red to green. I've been putting this on the list, right, since over here. And finally, it had its day, right? Guys, I want you to really be mindful of this inside day setup. So when you have the big day and then you have the inside day after it, that's the hottest setup in the market. Like when you have a list of 20 names, you do got to rank these things. What's your number one? What's your number two? What's your number three? So that you don't miss the easy ones. I messed this up. We had this thing right off at the open in the chat room, and I took the quick gains on it and moved on to something else, and this thing ended up trending all day. And so a little bit of lesson for me too on just how to manage positions and not to homie hop into the next big thing. Did not, after the sausage party of the last few days, I did not really expect that kind of heat, but here we are, right? So let's get into today's list. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. These pot stocks are heating up here. I'm looking for the blow off in these. I don't think I'll be trying to trade this to the long side. It's still got time. Like this just had a reverse split, so it's got some. But if it gets up into these zones, you got even options on this thing, right? So you can find borrows pretty easy. This one and right CGC. I'll be looking for a blow off on these. I don't think it's there yet. If it has a weak open, it's probably going red to green. But 2-3 days of this, and dude, the pot stocks always collapse, right? There's just no around it. Like who needs to have a pot? Why would you need a stock for pot? You just go down the corner, right, and ask, old Eduardo, like, yo, where the Chiba at? And you've got yourself some pot, right? You don't really need these stores, but here we are. Now, MNMD, this was on yesterday's watch list. We had a flat top breakout on it, followed through. Same type of deal. You get a weak open on this, and it takes out this 12 spot. Bros, like that can go. SMTC, man, this had really, look at the volume accumulation on this. Look at the increase in volume on this. This has got a good look. And then if you look in here, you got a huge base that it's coming out of. This thing used to be $100. It's got tons of upside left in it, right? You got this kind of quick pull, and then boom, took off today. I love the look on this. Red to green on this too, like right sector, right time. It's Dell. I think, this could, ideally, you would have an inside day on this, and then on a Friday, you'd have some zero DTE kind of explosion That would be probably the best thing for it, but it very well could bust loose even tomorrow. We'll have to see how it opens. Look at the uptick in volume on this thing, right? You went from 5 million shares to 20 million shares. I didn't even see any news on it. It's just people were feeling frothy for the Dell. Now, I added a couple of these silver stocks. You got PAS and MAG for rubber band shorts too. I think if you get a big gap up on these, you get a big gap up. They're not they're overbought right now, but you need probably one more push. A big gap up on these, or even a decent gap up, 3-4%. I think that we could flip these for quick shorts. So I got both of these on the watch list for shorts. CLS. Arvin from my chat room had mentioned this one, that it looks like an imminent breakout. And I agree, man. You went red to green on this, pulled back to support, like great trender, moves pretty good. Nobody's talking about it. You don't got to chase it up. It's a good look to it. MU's a daily trader at this point. Every time it has a couple inside days, it's just popping. This thing can go for a little bit. So watch for any weakness on this thing, kind of if it gaps down or any of that kind of stuff. Let's see, how it reacts. And, this kind of 127, 128 zone will be a little bit of something. You don't want to chase this one up, so let it be weak. But the range is really nice on it. Like this is, 6% is good for, such a big company, right? $135 billion company. Love this old Qualcomm. Dude, this thing is tighter than a goose's caboose right here. Look at this bad boy, right? Boom. Dude. We get a week open on this. I think it's ready to partay. Like you've got a imminent breakout on this one. VKTX, still watching this one for the trend line break. Like it's just marinating down here. But, overall look, it's there. It just needs a little bit of a kick in the pants. Lactation Nation, tightening up here. Just 725 trigger. I got alerts on it. Google, after the push, you got 1 day, 2 inside days. Would not be surprised to see this thing have a little bit of a launch party tomorrow. Remember with Google, you basically got to trade the options on it. It just doesn't have the ATR, 1.91%. It doesn't have the ATR to trade the shares, really. It does if you have a 5-point range, but it usually doesn't. So you go the calls, and they'll move pretty good. On the short side, I got Etsy and Starbucks. Starbucks has been fading off pretty nicely. I think it's got a little bit more. Juice left in it. And then I'm watching this ZS. I've got a alert set right at the 200-day moving average. If it taps into this and holds, I think I take this for a flipper for a few days. It could turn into a swing trade depending on how it closes. But that's got a good look to it too, guys. Hey, there's two different things that are happening, right? Markets distributing a little bit in certain sectors, but you still have pockets of heat here. That semiconductor trade came in again today, not necessarily in NVIDIA, but right, some of the other names. And so that's kind of cool too, right? You see NVIDIA maybe flatlining for a little bit. It needs maybe quite some rest, but then, right, the flow comes into the Qualcomm, the MU. Marvel was hot for, a quick second today before it rolled over. Maybe a Taiwan Semiconductor. So you've got these kind of other names that have been basing out. I think Taiwan Semiconductor has a chance to pate tomorrow too. That 140-250 break could be something, and it ran into it today and kind of faded back. So tomorrow will be probably, another tap on it and it'll look a little bit better. So guys, let me know if you have any questions. I love you guys. Peace in the Middle East.